Hey, it's Kyle here, and today I have a little bit of a different type of video topic I want to explore, as probably the title of this video mentions. I want to talk about my first favorite author. And the reason I was thinking about this, I've done in the past some highlights of some of my favorite authors, and I was kind of brainstorming on that. If there's anybody I wanted to add to that category. And when I was thinking about that, I got to kind of thinking about the different stages of my life when I did add new authors to my favorite list. And it really got me thinking, like, well, who was the first author I really considered my favorite? And for me, that is Ray Bradbury. He was my first author that I really read a book, loved it, and then instantly wanted to read as many of his other books as possible. And to me, that is a really good sense of if an author is one of your favorites. Not just you're reading a series of his and you want to finish the series of his or her writing, but you read a book and you want to read everything else he's written immediately, just to see, was it just this one book, or have I found one of my favorite authors? And again, for me, that was Ray Bradbury. So before I get too in depth in this, I did want to say my question to the viewers this week is, who was your first favorite author? I'm very curious to see what everybody says. Please put that in the comment section below. I'm very curious to see the authors that are listed down here. But I figured I'd kind of list some of my favorite Bradbury books. These are not all the Bradbury books I've read, but some of my favorites. Probably my two favorites I'll go over first. Fahrenheit 451. Which I believe was the first of his books I ever read. I'm not for sure, but I'm pretty sure this was the first one. And like a lot of people, I did read this as a school assignment, and loved it. I remember it being one of the. It wasn't the first book I ever read at school that I really, really loved, but it is probably the first one that, like, wow, it really bowled me over. I was like, this is awesome. I want to read more of this. Has there been a movie of this? Has there been TV? You know, what else has this guy written? And all that type of stuff. Of course, Fahrenheit 51 is very well known, so I'm not going to bother going over the plot or any of these books, but still one of my favorite books of all time. Very close, and I have a hard time picking my favorite between these two books of his, is Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's such an amazing book, such a unique concept, and one thing I love about Bradbury, all his books are very different. Some lean more into the sci-fi realm, some lean more into dystopian. Some, like Something Wicked This Way Comes, has more of a gothic fantasy horror vibe to it. He has other books that are set more in contemporary stages, just like what his childhood was like. And so many authors, you know, they're all like sci-fi, dystopian, historical fiction. You know, they're just one genre, and every book feels very similar. They're still great, but they're very similar. This is the plot changed a little bit. Bradbury is very different from book to book, and that's one thing I really love. And Something Wicked This Way Comes is just an amazing book. And actually, I plan to try to reread this book sometime this year, because it's been a while since I've reread it. And that's one thing I did want to mention. I think another hallmark of being a favorite author is how often you reread them. And I would say Bradbury is probably, of all the authors that are my favorite, Bradbury is probably the one I've reread the most, because there's several of his books that I do reread on a regular basis. Dandelion Wine, to me, is a very cool book. It's one of the first books I read that was more contemporary. It wasn't set as a sci-fi dystopian or a fantasy or anything. There wasn't the supernatural going. This is just what, like, a childhood was like during Bradbury's childhood. And it was an amazing book. I really, really enjoyed it. And of course, Bradbury is really well known for his short stories, so probably some of the most famous collections of short stories ever. The Martian Chronicles, which is an amazing sci-fi short stories in this one. And probably some more stuff on the fantasy realm. Also some sci-fi stuff in here too, but The Illustrated Man. Both of those probably made the two famous short story collections of any author's ever done. And he's done several of them. But it's such amazing art. And authors really don't do short stories the way they used to, so that's probably something that won't be topped in the future. But there's just so many reasons why I love Bradbury. Unique, amazing plots that make you think, characters you quickly fall in love with, such interesting concepts, such a variety of different styles he wrote in, produced a ton of content too, so that is useful, because for example, another author I absolutely loved that I fell in love probably the same time period that I did with Ray Bradbury was Harper Lee with To Kill a Mockingbird, but it was just that. I didn't have anything else to go with. And there's other great authors. You go like, oh, I've read that. There's a couple other books, and then you're just done. Bradbury churned out content like crazy. So it's always great when you fall in love with the author and you go like, oh, and he wrote a ton of stuff. Because sometimes when you fall in love with the author and you do the research, you go like, oh, this was it. You're like, dang it, you're so disappointed. But Bradbury is, I think, is an ideal candidate for me, at least, to be my first favorite author. So again, in the comment section below, let me know who your first favorite author was. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you have, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. I can't express how much it means to me every time I see I get a new subscriber, because this is a small channel, so I do notice that type of stuff. But anyway, thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the video. Happy reading, and I'll see you the next time.